The great hall of the Galactic Council sparkled like a sea of stars. Thousands of different alien species sat in rising tiers of seats, their bodies glowing, shimmering, and in some cases floating above their designated spots. In the middle of all this grandeur, Dr. James Walker sat quietly in the human section, wearing a simple black suit that seemed almost too plain for such an event. He watched as Ambassador Gray of the Centaurians floated to the center platform. The ambassador's crystalline body caught the light from above, sending rainbow patterns across the hall's marble floor. This was the annual Technology Summit, where species from across the galaxy came to show off their latest achievements. "My fellow beings," Ambassador Gray's voice echoed through the chamber, somehow managing to sound both like chiming bells and rolling thunder. "We face a time of great change in our galaxy. Our trade routes grow more crowded each cycle, and the need for faster travel becomes more pressing." Dr. Walker noticed how the Arcturians, sitting in their elevated position near the top of the chamber, puffed up their chest membranes with pride. They currently held the record for the fastest ships in the galaxy. Therefore, Ambassador Gray continued, "The Council proposes a challenge. We will hold a competition in 6 Earth months. The species that can break the current faster-than-light speed record will gain exclusive rights to establish new trade routes in the Outer Rim sectors." The hall erupted in excited chatter. The Outer Rim sectors were rich in rare materials and untapped resources. Whoever controlled those trade routes would become incredibly wealthy and powerful. Walker kept his face carefully neutral as various alien representatives stood up to declare their participation. The Arcturians spoke first, their representative's voice booming across the chamber. "We accept this challenge," the Arcturian said, his metallic scales gleaming. "Though I hardly see the point. No one has come close to matching our ship's speed in the last 100 cycles." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Walker noticed several species glancing at the human section with what could only be described as pity, despite their alien features. The humans would be wise to not even attempt this challenge. A bug-like alien whispered loudly behind Walker. "Their ships are practically ancient compared to ours." Walker slowly stood up. The movement was so deliberate that it caught the attention of nearby aliens. He walked to the speaking platform, his footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber. "Humanity accepts the challenge," he said simply. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then laughter erupted from multiple sections of the chamber. The Arcturian representative's scales rattled with amusement. "Dr. Walker," Ambassador Gray said kindly, their crystalline form shifting colors in what seemed like concern, "you understand that this challenge involves breaking the current fastest-than-light speed record, the one that the Arcturians set 50 cycles ago." "We understand perfectly," Walker replied, maintaining his calm demeanor. "Humanity will participate." More laughter followed, but Walker noticed one figure who wasn't laughing. Admiral Tom Peters, a veteran diplomat from the Pleiades sector, was watching him with interest. The Admiral's green eyes narrowed thoughtfully, his tentacles curling in what Walker had learned was a sign of curiosity. As Walker returned to his seat, he pulled out his phone and sent a simple message to Earth. "Challenge accepted. Initiate Project Prometheus." The response came almost instantly. "Understood. Director Martinez says it's time to show them what humans can do." Walker smiled slightly as the chamber continued to buzz with amused conversations about humanity's foolish bravery. Let them laugh, he thought. They had no idea what was coming. In a secret facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, humanity was about to change everything they thought they knew about space travel. The meeting continued, but Walker barely paid attention. His mind was already racing ahead to the next 6 months, and the moment when the galaxy would learn to never underestimate human ingenuity again. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Director Lisa Martinez stood before a massive holographic display. The image showed a spaceship design unlike anything humanity had ever built before. Its smooth lines and unusual curves would have looked strange to both human and alien eyes. "Run the simulation again," she ordered, her eyes fixed on the numbers scrolling across the screen. The dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept much lately, but her voice remained sharp and clear. The computer hummed to life. In the hologram, the ship's experimental drive began to glow. Unlike traditional engines that pushed against space, this one did something different. It worked with space itself. "Look at that," said Robert Miller, the team's lead physicist. He pointed to a particular set of readings. The space-time fabric isn't just bending, it's cooperating. It's like we've been trying to break down a door all these years when we could have just turned the handle. Martinez nodded. While alien civilizations had spent centuries trying to force their way through space with brute power, her team had taken a completely different approach. They had spent years studying how space itself behaved, not just how to push against it. "Director," a young engineer burst into the room, tablet in hand. "The latest test results from the prototype. You need to see this." Martinez took the tablet, her eyes widening as she read. "These numbers, they're better than we hoped." "How did?" "The quantum field harmonics," the engineer explained excitedly. "When we adjusted them based on Dr. Walker's observations from the council ships, everything clicked. The aliens have been so focused on pushing harder that they never considered pulling less." The facility buzzed with activity. In one corner, engineers worked on the ship's unusual hull design. In another, physicists fine-tuned equations that would have made their alien counterparts scratch their heads in confusion. The humans weren't trying to beat alien technology. They were creating something completely new. Martinez walked to a window overlooking the main construction bay. There, slowly taking shape, was Project Prometheus. Its hull gleamed under the bright lights, but the real marvel was invisible to the naked eye. Inside that hull, humanity had packed centuries of innovative thinking and one simple, revolutionary idea. Instead of fighting against the universe's laws, why not work with them? Dr. Walker's message came through, Miller said, joining her at the window. "The council gave us 6 months. Will we be ready?" Martinez smiled. "We've been ready for weeks. I just wanted to triple-check everything. When we show this to the galaxy, there can't be any doubt." A technician approached with another report. "The quantum slip drive is maintaining stability at all power levels. It's like space wants to help us move through it." "Of course it does," Martine said softly. "We finally stopped treating it like an enemy to be conquered." She turned to address the room full of Earth's brightest minds. "Everyone, listen up. We've done something incredible here. While the rest of the galaxy tried to force their way through space, we learned to dance with it. In 6 months, we're going to show them that humanity isn't just catching up. We're changing the game entirely." The room erupted in applause. Even the usually serious scientists couldn't hold back their excitement. They all knew they were part of something historic. Later that night, as most of the team headed home for some well-deserved rest, Martinez sent a message to Walker. "Project status: green. The galaxy thinks we're building a ship. What we've actually built is a revolution." As she looked one last time at Prometheus before heading home, Martinez thought about the upcoming demonstration. The aliens' laughter at humanity's participation would soon turn to amazement. But more importantly, humanity was about to prove that sometimes the best way forward wasn't to be the strongest or the most advanced. It was to be the most innovative. The night shift came in, and work continued. In 6 months, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology, but their ability to think differently about problems that everyone else had already given up on solving. News of humanity's participation in the Speed Challenge spread through the galaxy like wildfire. In the prestigious star towers of the Arcturian homeworld, their chief engineer Rex stood before his council, his metallic scales reflecting the light of 3 setting suns. "They've requested technical specifications of our current fastest ships," Rex said, his voice filled with amusement. "The humans claim it's for safety protocols during the competition." The Arcturian leadership burst into laughter. Their fastest ships had held the speed record for 50 cycles. The idea that humans could even come close to matching them seemed absurd. "Give them what they want," the Arcturian High Commander said, waving a scaled hand dismissively. "Let them study our greatness. Perhaps they'll learn something about real space travel." But not everyone found the situation amusing. Admiral Tom Peters sat in his private office on the diplomatic station, reviewing footage of human engineers examining various alien ships. Something about their behavior bothered him. They weren't acting like students admiring advanced technology. They were looking at the ships the way a chess master studies an opponent's outdated strategies. "Computer, show me the human inspection team's visit to the Arcturian vessel again," he said, his tentacles curling thoughtfully. The screen flickered to life, showing human engineers walking around an Arcturian ship. They barely looked at the massive engines that everyone else found so impressive. Instead, they paid attention to small details: how the ship interacted with space around it, the subtle distortions in the nearby gravity field, the way light bent around the hull. "They're seeing something we're all missing," Tom muttered to himself. His communication panel lit up. It was a message from the Centaurian Science Council. "Admiral Peters, we request your presence at an emergency meeting regarding the human participation in the Speed Challenge." When Tom arrived at the meeting, he found the room filled with representatives from various advanced species. Ambassador Gray's crystalline form presided over the gathering. "The humans have been visiting every major shipyard in the galaxy," a bug-like alien scientist complained. "They're clearly trying to steal our technology." "Impossible," another representative cut in. "Their scientific understanding is too primitive. They wouldn't even know what to steal." Tom watched silently as the debate continued. He noticed Dr. Walker sitting quietly in the corner, typing notes into his tablet with a slight smile on his face. "Perhaps," Tom finally spoke up, his voice cutting through the arguments, "we should be less concerned about what the humans might steal and more interested in what they might create." The room fell silent. Walker looked up from his tablet, meeting Tom's eyes with a knowing look. "Admiral Peters," Ambassador Gray chimed in, their crystalline form shifting colors curiously. "Surely you don't suggest that humans could actually compete with our advanced drive systems?" "I suggest," Tom replied carefully, "that we might be underestimating them. Has anyone noticed that they spend more time studying space around our ships than the ships themselves?" Before anyone could respond, Walker's tablet beeped. He read something, smiled, and stood up. "Thank you all for your generous cooperation," Walker said politely. "Our inspection team has gathered all the data we needed. We'll see you at the demonstration in 2 months." As Walker left the room, Tom noticed something that everyone else missed. The human's walk had the confident stride of someone who knew they held a winning hand. After the meeting, Tom returned to his office and sent a private message to his superiors. "Warning: human participation in Speed Challenge may yield unexpected results. Recommend preparing for possible significant shifts in galactic power balance." He looked out his window at the stars, thinking about humanity's strange approach to studying alien ships. In all his years of diplomatic service, he had learned one crucial lesson: the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. It's the one who sees things differently. As ships zipped past his window at what everyone considered the height of faster-than-light technology, Tom wondered if humans were about to prove just how limited that perspective was. The demonstration day arrived with all the grandeur the Galactic Council could muster. Thousands of ships surrounded the testing area, their crews eager to witness what they expected to be humanity's embarrassing failure. The space station's observation deck was packed with representatives from every major species. Director Martinez stood beside the covered form of the Prometheus in the launch bay, running her final checks. The ship looked nothing like the other vessels lined up for the challenge. While alien ships bristled with massive engines and power systems, Prometheus appeared almost delicate, its smooth hull reflecting the stars like a mirror. "They're ready for us," Dr. Walker said, walking up to her. The Arcturian representative just finished bragging about their new engine upgrades. Apparently, they've increased their speed by another 5%. Martinez smiled. 5%? How ambitious of them. The launch bay's massive doors opened, revealing the testing course. Beacons stretched out into deep space, marking the challenge route. Each ship would need to make the journey, passing through specific checkpoints before returning. When the cover was finally pulled off Prometheus, a strange hush fell over the watching crowd. The alien engineers who had gathered to study humanity's attempt seemed confused by what they saw, or rather, what they didn't see. "Where are the engines?" one of them asked loudly. "This is a joke, right?" another called out. "There's no visible propulsion system." The Arcturian chief engineer Rex stomped forward, his scales rattling with irritation. "How do you expect to move through space? With wishes and dreams?" "Actually," Martine said, her voice carrying clearly through the bay, "we don't push through space at all. Prometheus doesn't fight against the universe, it works with it." She gestured to the ship's unusual hull design. "Every other ship here is designed to force its way through space-time. We decided to try something different. We learned to ask space-time nicely if we could come along for the ride." The alien engineers burst into laughter, but Admiral Tom Peters, watching from above, noticed that none of the human team members seemed bothered by the mockery. In fact, they looked excited. Mark Anderson, the pilot, climbed into Prometheus. The ship's systems came online, but instead of the usual roar of engines, there was only a soft hum. The hull began to shimmer slightly, as if the very fabric of space around it was gently rippling. "Impossible," Rex muttered, staring at his sensor readings. "The spatial distortion patterns, they're all wrong. This shouldn't work." Martinez turned to address the gathered crowd. For centuries, everyone assumed that faster-than-light travel meant pushing harder against space-time. We wondered what would happen if we stopped pushing and started listening instead. Turns out, the universe has been trying to show us a better way all along. The launch countdown began. Other ships were powering up their massive engines, filling the bay with thunderous noise. Prometheus just sat there, humming quietly, the space around it dancing with subtle distortions that made some observers feel dizzy if they looked too closely. "All ships, prepare for launch," the control room announced. Walker walked over to Admiral Tom. "You were right to be suspicious of how we studied those alien ships," he said quietly. "We weren't learning how to copy them. We were learning what not to do." As the final countdown approached, Martine had sent one last message to her team back on Earth. Time to show them what happens when you think outside the box, or in this case, outside conventional spacetime. The launch bay erupted with energy as the competition began. As other ships roared to life with impressive displays of power, Prometheus simply slipped sideways into reality, leaving behind a group of very confused aliens and their suddenly outdated understanding of how the universe worked. The race began with a spectacular display of alien technology. The Arcturian ship shot forward in a burst of blinding energy, its massive engines turning space itself into a light show. 5 other ships followed, each representing the pinnacle of their species' engineering. Their combined power made the observation windows vibrate. Inside Prometheus, Mark Anderson sat calmly in the pilot's seat, his hands resting lightly on the controls. The ship hummed softly around him, more like a living thing than a machine. "Prometheus, you are cleared for launch," the control room announced, their tone suggesting they expected very little. "Acknowledged," Mark replied. He pressed a single button, initiating quantum slip. The difference was immediate and stunning. While other ships fought their way through space in brilliant displays of force, Prometheus simply vanished. No flash, no thunder, no dramatic light show. One moment it was there, the next it wasn't. In the control room, chaos erupted. Where did they go? Someone shouted. Did their ship explode? Checking long-range sensors, another controller reported, then fell silent, staring at their screen in disbelief. Director Martinez smiled as she watched the sensor readings. Prometheus hadn't exploded. It was already passing the first checkpoint. The checkpoint monitoring team wasn't even in position yet, still expecting ships to take at least an hour to reach them. The Arcturian ship, currently in the lead of the conventional vessels, was barely a tenth of the way to the first checkpoint. Their chief engineer Rex was shouting at his sensors, refusing to believe what they showed. Impossible. They can't be at checkpoint 1 already. The readings must be wrong. Admiral Tom Peters stood quietly in the corner, watching multiple screens track Prometheus' progress. The human ship wasn't just breaking the speed record, it was completely rewriting the rules of space travel. Second checkpoint reached, a stunned controller announced. The room fell silent. The second checkpoint team had just finished their pre-race coffee. Mark's voice came through, calm as ever. Prometheus reporting smooth sailing. The space-time currents are particularly friendly today. The alien ships continued their conventional race, unaware that they were already competing for second place. Their massive engines pushed against the fabric of space, while Prometheus gently slipped through it like a fish in a stream. Third checkpoint. Fourth. Fifth. The controller's voice grew more bewildered with each announcement. They're already on their way back. Martinez keyed her communicator. How's it feeling, Mark? Like riding a bicycle downhill, Mark replied cheerfully. Space is doing most of the work. We're just going along for the ride. The first alien ships were just approaching the second checkpoint when Prometheus reappeared at the finish line, sliding gracefully back into normal space as if it had just taken a casual stroll. The timing officials stared at their equipment in shock. Prometheus had completed the course in less than 15 minutes. The previous record was 8 hours. Mark powered down the ship's systems and opened the hatch, climbing out as casually as if he'd just parked a car. The silence in the launch bay was absolute. Director Martinez walked over to the stunned officials. I believe you'll find all course checkpoints were properly logged, she said, handing them a data chip, though you might want to ask your checkpoint teams to arrive a bit earlier next time. The Arcturian chief engineer stumbled forward, his scales pale with shock. But how? The power requirements alone. That's the thing, Martinez replied kindly. When you work with space instead of against it, you don't need much power at all. Your ships are like someone trying to swim by pushing all the water out of the way. Ours is like someone who finally learned to float. As the implications began to sink in, Admiral Tom Peters sent a message to the Galactic Council. As predicted, human innovation has changed everything. Recommend immediate revision of all known space travel principles. In the background, Mark was already running system checks for the return trip to Earth, humming a tune as he worked. To him, they hadn't just broken a speed record. They'd shown the galaxy that sometimes the best way to win wasn't to be the strongest, but to be the smartest. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council began in chaos. The Grand Chamber, usually a model of order and dignity, had devolved into something resembling a marketplace argument. Representatives from every major species were talking at once, their voices mixing into a storm of demands and accusations. Ambassador Gray's crystalline form pulsed with bright colors as they tried to restore order. Please, we must maintain decorum. In the center of the chamber, Dr. Walker stood calmly at the speaker's podium, hands clasped behind his back. The human section, previously tucked away in a corner, had been hastily moved to a more prominent position. The Arcturian representative slammed his scaled fist on his desk. They must have cheated. There's no other explanation. We demand to inspect this Prometheus ship immediately. By all means, Walker replied with a smile. Our engineers would be happy to explain exactly how it works. Though I warn you, you might need to unlearn some of your basic assumptions about space travel first. From his elevated seat, Admiral Tom Peters watched the proceedings with interest. The political balance of the galaxy was shifting before his eyes. Species that had looked down on humans just days ago were now trying to catch Walker's attention between sessions. The humans must share this technology, demanded the representative from a species of energy beings. The advancement of space travel affects us all. Walker raised his hand for silence. Let me be clear. We're not here to hand over our technology. We're here to trade, to partner, to work together. But humanity will not simply give away what we've worked so hard to develop. The Arcturian chief engineer Rex, who had been studying the technical readouts from the speed test, stood up. Even if we had the plans, we couldn't replicate it. Their entire approach defies our understanding of physics. It's like they're reading a different textbook. That's exactly right, Walker said. We are reading a different textbook. While you all focused on mastering the rules of space travel, we decided to question those rules entirely. Sometimes the best way forward is to step back and ask, what if everything we know is based on the wrong assumptions? A quiet fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just built a faster ship. They'd discovered a completely new way of understanding space itself. Director Martinez, newly arrived from the testing facility, joined Walker at the podium. We're not here to upset the Galactic Order, she said. We're here to expand it. Yes, we have exclusive rights to the new trade routes as per the challenge rules. But we're looking for partners who are willing to learn, to think differently, to explore new possibilities. The council erupted again, but this time with offers and proposals. Species that had never given humanity a second glance were suddenly very interested in cultural exchange programs, joint research projects, and trade agreements. The humans didn't just change space travel, Admiral Tom commented to Ambassador Gray. They changed the entire balance of power in the galaxy without firing a single shot. Indeed, Gray's crystalline form chimed thoughtfully. And they did it by making everyone else question their own limitations. As the session continued, Walker received a message from Earth's government. Well done. How are they taking it? He looked around the chamber, at the mix of excitement, fear, and wonder on alien faces. Some species were already huddled together, discussing what this meant for their alliances. Others were frantically communicating with their homeworlds, updating their diplomatic strategies. They're beginning to understand, he wrote back, not just about the technology, but about humanity itself. We're not just the newcomers anymore. We're the ones who prove that impossible is just another word for hasn't been done differently yet. The day ended with the signing of the first wave of new treaties and partnerships. As the chamber finally emptied, Walker looked out at the stars through the grand window. Somewhere out there, Prometheus had opened not just new trade routes, but a new chapter in galactic history. 3 months after the historic speed test, the secret facility beneath the Rocky Mountains had changed dramatically. Where once there had been only human engineers, now beings from across the galaxy worked side by side with Earth's scientists. The facility had become a symbol of the new age of cooperation. Director Martinez walked through the main research hall, nodding at a group of Arcturian engineers who were studying the principles of quantum slip technology. Their initial hostility had given way to genuine curiosity once they allowed themselves to question their old assumptions. The latest test results are in, Robert Miller said, falling into step beside her. The joint human-alien team managed to improve the efficiency by another 12%. Turns out, combining our different perspectives leads to even better results. Martinez smiled. Sometimes the best innovations come from combining unlikely ideas. How are our visitors adapting to our methods? Better than expected. Once they got past their initial resistance, many of them showed remarkable creativity. The Arcturians, especially, have some fascinating insights now that they've stopped trying to force their way through space. In orbit above Earth, Prometheus had been joined by a small fleet of new ships, each incorporating elements of the revolutionary human design. They weren't copies, they were evolutionary steps forward, born from the collaboration between species. Admiral Tom Peters stood in the observation deck of the new Galactic exchange station, watching these ships practice maneuvers. His terminal chimed with a message from the Council. Humanity had been nominated for a seat on the High Scientific Committee, a position previously reserved for only the most advanced civilizations. "Quite a change from 6 months ago," Dr. Walker said, joining him at the window. "Remember when they thought we were too primitive to even participate in the challenge?" Tom's tentacles curled in amusement. "You planned this all along, didn't you? Not just the technology, but the way you revealed it. You knew it would force everyone to reevaluate their assumptions about humanity." "We knew we had two choices," Walker replied. "We could either keep quiet and let everyone underestimate us, or we could show them that true advancement comes from thinking differently. We chose to share our discovery, to prove that cooperation is better than competition." Down in the facility's main conference room, Martinez was reviewing plans for the next generation of ships. The design showed influences from various species, all built around the core principle that had made Prometheus revolutionary: working with space instead of against it. "Director," a young engineer called out, "the Centaurians have an interesting proposal for improving the quantum field harmonics. They think their crystalline technology might enhance the slip effect." Martinez walked over to examine the proposal. This was what she had hoped for: genuine collaboration, each species contributing their unique insights to push the boundaries of what was possible. As the day wound down, she sent her daily report to Earth's government. "Project Prometheus has evolved beyond our wildest expectations. What started as a demonstration of human ingenuity has become a catalyst for galactic cooperation. We're not just building faster ships anymore. We're building bridges between civilizations." The sun set over the Rocky Mountains, casting long shadows through the facility's windows. In the main hangar, humans and aliens worked together, their conversations a mix of different languages and ideas. Above them, Prometheus stood proudly, no longer just a ship but a symbol of what was possible when you dared to question everything you thought you knew. "Ready to call it a day?" Miller asked Martinez as they finished reviewing the latest projects. She looked around at what their achievement had sparked: the collaboration, the exchange of ideas, the breaking down of barriers between species. "Not yet," she smiled. "This isn't the end of something. It's just the beginning." In the years that followed, historians would mark the Prometheus test as the moment when everything changed. Not just because humanity had built the fastest ship in the galaxy, but because they had shown that the greatest victories don't come from proving your superiority. They come from proving that everyone has something valuable to contribute, if only they dare to think differently.